Today we are going to be talking about The Little Clay Cart or Mrichakatika by Sudraka. This is the second lecture of the series, and in my last lecture I've already given a background of the play, and I've also outlined the sort of social context, the classical Indian social context in which the play unfolds. I have also mentioned that this play deviates from the tradition of the Natya Shastra of Bharata Muni, in that it does not depict characters from the nobility, but it portrays characters who are commoners, who are common people. Okay, once again, this lecture is being hosted by Radio Salesian 90.8 FM, and it is intended for the English Honours students. This is part of Mrichakatika, is part of core course 3 in the second semester of those pursuing their English Honours course under North Bengal University. Okay, I've also mentioned in my last lecture regarding the cosmopolitan nature of the play. I have told that this play is written in both Sanskrit and Pali, and only a few of the characters such as Charudatta, Aryaka, the exiled prince, and the judge, they are the ones who speak, also Sharvilaka, who is Madanika's lover, they are the ones who speak in Sanskrit. The rest of the characters all speak in Prakrit dialect. Okay, we are going to be referring to the 1905 translation by just give me a second. Yeah, we are going to be referring to the 1905 translation by Arthur William Ryder. He was a professor of Sanskrit at the University of Harvard, and this is the first known English translation of the play. And I've already also mentioned to you in my last lecture how this play has been revived and it has been staged and restaged for the European audiences. Okay, so I have told you that this is a 10-act play, and let us look at what happens in the course of these 10 acts. Okay, in Act 1, which is entitled The Gems Are Left Behind, it's the evening of the first day, and I told you that there's a prologue in which the writer, not much is known about the playwright King Shudraka, he's giving an eulogy of his own self and his own court. Okay, after the prologue there's Act 1, where we meet Charudatta, who is within his house. He's talking with his friend Maitreya, and he's discussing about his poverty. I told you, even Charudatta, though he is of high birth, but he does not belong to the nobility. Okay, so he deplores his poverty, and he's talking about his poverty to his friend Maitreya. Okay, and while they're speaking, Vasantasena, she appears in the street outside. She's pursued by the courtier and Samsthanaka. Samsthanaka is the main antagonist or the villain in this play. He desires Vasantasena, but Vasantasena does not desire him back. He's also the brother of one of King Palaka's concubines, and I've also told you that this play will end with a shift in power, where King Palaka will be deposed and Prince Aryaka, who has been sent to exile, will return and he will assume the throne. Okay, Samsthanaka makes degrading offers of his love to Vasantasena. And meanwhile, what happens? Charudatta sends Maitreya from the house to offer sacrifice, and through the open door, Vasantasena slips unobserved into the house. Maitreya returns after an altercation with Samsthanaka and recognizes Vasantasena. Vasantasena, this is very important, she leaves a casket of gems in the house for safekeeping with Maitreya, and she returns to her own home. Now, Act 2, entitled The Shampooer Who Gambled. Okay, this is an interlude of sorts. This is not directly related to the subplot of the play, but the shampooer or the masseur, he gives massage to Charudatta. He will become an important minor character, but an important character, because he will later become a Buddhist monk, and he will revive Vasantasena from the point of near death. Okay, so Act 2 is an interlude of sorts. It's a subplot. It's not directly related to the main plot. We see a group of gamblers, we see the shampooer or the masseur, and there is a bit of scuffle and skirmish that goes on. Not a very important act, and there is this episode involving a runaway elephant and all of that, but it is a subplot. It's a small subsection of the play. But remember, the shampooer or the masseur of Charudatta, he'll become important because he'll turn into a Buddhist monk and he will save Vasantasena from the point of near death. Okay, Act 3, entitled The Hole in the Wall. Here we see that Sharvilaka, as I've already mentioned, he presents a foil to the character of Charudatta in this play. He's a contrast to the character of Charudatta. And Sharvilaka is in love with Madanika. Madanika is Vasantasena's confidant and maid. Okay, she's also held bondage. She's sold to Vasantasena, so she's also held bondage by Vasantasena. Okay, the Sharvilaka, who desires Madanika, he wants to buy her freedom, and for doing that he will steal Vasantasena's jewels. He will make a hole in the wall. That is why Act 3 is called the hole in the wall. He'll make a hole in the wall and he'll enter through the hole, and he will steal the gem of caskets which Vasantasena has left with Charudatta's friend Maitreya for safekeeping. Okay. Act 4, it's called Madanika and Sharvilaka. This is the third day. Sharvilaka will come to Vasantasena's house and he will offer to buy Madanika's freedom. Now this is an aspect of Vasantasena's character. She recognizes that what Sharvilaka is offering as the price is her own stolen gems. She recognizes her gems. She recognizes her own jewels, but she nevertheless accepts them, and she decides to free Madanika. She gives Madanika her freedom. So this also shows that she is a prostitute she's a courtesan with a golden heart. And this trope of the courtesan with a golden heart, it becomes repeated throughout not just ancient classical literature, but also sort of modern Bollywood films, for example. If you have seen films like, or if you have heard of films like Umrao Jaan, you will see that this trope of the courtesan or the prostitute with a golden heart, this becomes oft repeated. It's an oft repeated trope within classical Indian literature, which is adapted and readapted later, even in modern times. So Vasantasena is a courtesan or a Nagarvadhu, as I've explained the term to you in my last lecture. She frees Madanika, accepts her own jewels which have been stolen from her from Sharvilaka, and what Charudatta then gives, because the necklace has been stolen while it had been given for safekeeping to his friend Maitreya from his house, Charudatta offers a pearl necklace to Vasantasena in return. Okay, it's his wife's necklace, and he's already impoverished, but nevertheless he wants to make amends, and he offers a pearl necklace to Vasantasena. Okay. Act 5, entitled The Storm. This is the evening of the third day. We see that Charudatta appears in the garden of his house, and he receives a servant of Vasantasena who announces that Vasantasena is on her way to visit him. Then Vasantasena appears in the street with the courtier. The two describe alternately the violence and beauty of the storm which has suddenly arisen. Vasantasena dismisses the courtier, enters the garden, and explains to Charudatta how she has again come into possession of the gem casket. I already told you that Sharvilaka has given the gem casket to her in order to secure his lover Madanika's freedom. Meanwhile, the storm has so increased in violence that she is compelled to spend the night in Charudatta's house. It is during this situation that the two of them will they'll become physically close, they'll become physically intimate with each other. Okay, and just like in Shakespearean tragedy, here the storm signifies a kind of It's a way of nature intervening within the plot of the play. Just like after Duncan's murder in Macbeth, you have a storm which shows you that something abysmal has happened in the course of the play. Here you have the storm intervening almost as a character in the play, and it is bringing together the two leads, that is Vasantasena and Charudatta. Okay. Act 6, entitled The Swapping of the Bullock Carts. This is the morning of the fourth day. Vasantasena has spent the night with Charudatta, and next morning she meets his young son Rohasena. Okay. Now, because Charudatta is a poor Brahmin, he cannot afford to buy expensive toys for his son Rohasena. And Rohasena has a small bullock cart. That is where the title of the play comes from. Rohasena has a small bullock cart which is made of clay, and he is ashamed to show it to his friends. Now Vasantasena, in a gesture of kindness and goodwill, she decides to load the tray with her own jewels from the gem casket so that it looks like a golden cart. Okay, that is where the name comes from, the little clay cart. And once again, this shows that Vasantasena, she does not really, for her, physical, material wealth is really not so much of a concern. Otherwise, she would have given into the advances of Samsthanaka. So, she is a prostitute or a courtesan or a Nagarvadhu with a golden heart, and she gives the jewels to Rohasena to decorate his cart. Okay. Act 6 is something else happens in Act 6, the swapping of the bullock cart. Something else also happens here. Aryaka appears. Aryaka is the exiled prince who appears and enters Charudatta's cart. Two policemen come on the scene. They are searching for Aryaka. One of them looks into the cart and discovers Aryaka but agrees to protect him. This he does by deceiving and finally maltreating his companion. Okay. Act 7 called Aryaka's Escape. Now this is another subplot which will become important. I told you this play is as much about a change in the dynamics of power as much as it is about the love between Vasantasena and Charudatta. Okay, so Aryaka's Escape, Act 7, this is the 4th day. Charudatta is waiting for Vasantasena in the park. His cart, in which Aryaka lies hidden, appears. Charudatta discovers the fugitive, removes his fetters, lends him the cart and leaves the park. Okay, there's a confusion here. Remember, there are 3 Bullock carts in the play. Okay, one is the Bullock cart which Rohasena was playing with, the child's cart, the little clay cart, that's where the name comes from. And there are also 2 Bullock carts. One belongs to Charudatta, which he had sent for Vasantasena to pick her up. Okay, and the other cart is the one where Aryaka is hiding. Okay, there is a confusion here. You will see that the cart containing Aryaka will go to Charudatta, whereas the Vasantasena will get into the cart which Samsthanaka sends. So there's a confusion, there's a misunderstanding that occurs. Okay. Act 8 called The Strangling of Vasantasena. This is the 4th day. A Buddhist monk, the character who we have met in the 2nd act, who is a shampooer or the masseur from the 2nd act, enters the park. He has difficulty in escaping from Samsthanaka, who appears with the courtier. Now Samsthanaka's servant drives in the cart which Vasantasena has entered by mistake. I told you there are 2 Bullock carts here apart from the clay cart of the little kid. One was supposed to come to Samsthanaka carrying the exiled Aryaka so that Samsthanaka could get rid of him, because here is a contest over kingship is involved, because here Samsthanaka is acting on the behalf of King Palaka. Okay, and Palaka is sitting on the throne and Aryaka is the exiled prince. So Aryaka was supposed to be in one of the Bullock carts which was supposed to come to Samsthanaka, but that accidentally goes to Charudatta, and Charudatta frees the exiled prince. He frees Aryaka, he cuts his fetters, his chains, and sets him free. And Vasantasena enters the other cart by mistake, the one that was supposed to go to Charudatta, and ends up coming instead to Samsthanaka. Now Samsthanaka discovers her and he strangles her. He strangles her by her throat and he leaves her for dead. Okay, then she is discovered by the Buddhist monk who revives Vasantasena. Samsthanaka leaves her for dead, but the Buddhist monk revives her and conducts her to a nearby monastery or Gomba. Okay. Act 9, entitled The Trial. This is the 5th day when Samsthanaka accuses Charudatta of murdering Vasantasena for her money. He's a very unscrupulous character. I told you he's the main antagonist or the villain in the play. And he's also the symbol of, he's almost a Machiavellian character, if I may so use the word Machiavel. Machiavel, as you may have already heard or read when we were doing Christopher Marlowe, and we were looking at the character of the younger Mortimer, refers to someone for whom the end justifies the means. Okay, the name comes from Machiavel's Il Principe or the Prince. Okay, so Samsthanaka is almost a Machiavellian character and he blames Charudatta for the murder of Vasantasena. And remember, Vasantasena had given her gold jewels to the son Rohasena. So Charudatta is framed for the murder of Vasantasena and he's also framed for stealing the jewels. Okay, so Charudatta, there's a trial. Charudatta is sentenced to death and his wife is supposed to, she's also sentenced, not sentenced, but after he dies, she will be forced to commit sati. Okay, that is burning herself at the funeral pyre of her husband. Act 10, the last act, entitled The End. This is the 6th day when 2 headsmen are conducting Charudatta to the place of execution. He's been sentenced to death. Charudatta takes his last leave of his son and his friend Maitreya. Samsthanaka's servant escapes from confinement and betrays the truth, yet he is not believed owing to the cunning displayed by his master. I've already told you Samsthanaka is a Machiavellian character. He's a Machiavellian antagonist of this play. Okay, but at the right moment Vasantasena appears herself accompanied by the Buddhist monk, and her appearance puts a summary end to the proceedings. The news is brought that Prince Aryaka has killed and supplanted the former king Palaka, and that he wishes to reward Charudatta, and that he has by royal edict freed Vasantasena from the necessity of living as a courtesan. So it's a happy ending. Vasantasena no longer has to remain the Nagar Vadhu. She is a free woman and she no longer has to remain a public woman. And Samsthanaka is brought before Charudatta for sentence because it's found out that he had unscrupulously framed Charudatta and almost pushed him to the verge of death. He had also strangled Vasantasena, but she's alive. He's brought from before Charudatta for sentence, but is pardoned by the same man who he had grievously injured. Okay, the play ends with an epilogue. Okay, so this is more or less the summary of the play. Remember a few things about the play. One, its cosmopolitan character, which I've already discussed, in that it is written in both Sanskrit and in Prakrit. And also remember, this play deviates from the tradition of the Natya Shastra in that it shows you the lives of commoners instead of just focusing on the life of the nobility. Okay, thank you.